I felt like I was going to talk about this. Many people watching these videos. In 2012, I used to drink quite severely, and I'm totally sober. So we're going to discuss it. So when's young, I'm going to mention it. And I used to, at the time of I drank for many years, but I never drank on duty. I never got drunk, but I'd get off and I'd get drunk. And when I retired, I got, you could drink more. But I used to go to clubs. All of this is on my site. We're going to talk about Constance Luedicke, my lawyer. We're going to title this Constance Luedicke. And one day, in my times where I used to go and get drunk, I was coming home from a club, which I used to drink at. It was the Palace. And the girls knew that I was kind of new at going to clubs because I didn't go in many years. But then when I started drinking and retired, I used to hang out there. But the girls knew that some of them got mad because I wouldn't take their phone numbers or give them my phone numbers, and it was like, why is Jen? But they also used to ask me, why you drink a lot, John, and they kind of. But one day when I was coming home, I didn't know. It was a blackout day where you don't know where you parked your vehicle and all. And so I was accused of indecent exposure. Now, I didn't know. During that altercation, I had a van at that time. And a window was broken on my van, which I also didn't know how that happened. But then later, I was arrested for indecent exposure. It might have been a month or so after I don't remember how long after the so-called altercation. But they investigated, and then I remembered parts of that incident. Like I did come home drunk, and I told the truth to everybody. And then I called my wife when this happened, the arrest, or the charge and all. And my wife asked me, did you do this? And I told my wife, I said, I don't know. I said, I don't remember. I remember parts of it. Now, we want everything in the light here. A normal person would deny immediately. Whether the person is guilty or innocent, the normal response is you would say, no. My response was, and it was right here when my wife came home, I said, I don't remember. And she knew that I had blackouts at that period of my drinking stage. Now I'm about 4 years, 5 months sober. Okay? It just so happened that the person who made the accusation was friends with some of my daughter's friends who are on Facebook, and my daughter Debbie all knew the girl who made the accusation. And they knew the mother. I don't know the name till this day because I don't look for it, but the other girls knew. Some of the girls that are friends of my daughter that are still on Facebook are still friends of mine on Facebook, though I don't talk a lot, because one of them said during the whole incident, one of the girls who's still on Facebook, who was a friend of the accuser, said she's lying. Now, in the beginning of this whole process, I just wanted to settle it and said, I don't remember honestly. I said, I might have. But it was a blackout day, which it was, because they checked and they found out there was another girl that's also a friend on Facebook that lives across the street. And I came out the next day. The window was broken because obviously I was following somebody, checking out some girl that when I was drunk. And she felt uncomfortable that somebody was just checking her out. That's how that happened. But then as time progressed, I could give the names of the other girls, I won't, who knew the girl. They said, no, we know she's lying. But you followed the girl, but she lied about that. And I was honest about everything. And when, through the process, I just kept saying, oh, I'll just, plead guilty, I guess, because I was drunk. But then, from my daughter's friends, who all knew each other, said, oh no, we know that girl's lying about that thing. So, it was a little bit of a struggle because I wanted to just get it over with. But then they felt like, no, you should. And then when the process took place, I told the lawyer's name was Constance Luedicke. Miss Luedicke, we'll go ahead and title this you. Because during the process I said, no, I want to settle it. Now, I eventually pleaded no contest to that. And the girl's mother would call here, my daughter, at which I said, no, she's not supposed to be calling here. And she was kind of like, well, we'll just settle it. We hope this will help your dad. The mom knew, and she probably said, no. I said, and I told my lawyer and others, I said, look, the mother's still calling this house here. My daughter's cell phone. I said, she's not supposed to be doing that. She kind of wanted to, she knew that they lied about that particular accusation. That's how I believe that. And so it was a process of, and at the time, I told my lawyer, Constance Luedicke, I explained everything. I said, on Facebook, the other girls realized she did it because she was upset somebody was following her, checking her out. Well, they had videos, of course. Cops do that, and it was here, up and down the strip. So they had videos. And then there were also people that said, and there were parts that I remembered. Like, you can remember, and I remember the girl said, oh no, he stopped at a certain place. And I said, no, I knew I didn't stop because I remember I went through a stop sign. I remember something like that. And the other girl that's also, she's not a friend on Facebook, but she was a witness, she knew that her friend lied. Because those were the only people there. And at that point, but I had to go back and forth. Now I remember explaining to Constance Luedicke, I said, I know that I had problems in the past, and I know I had alcoholism. They checked everything, and they probably thought I was lying about a blackout drinker, but when I woke up one morning and saw because the boyfriend or some friend broke the window in a van, and I didn't know that. And I got up one day, I said, oh, somebody broke my window on the van. And I think one of the girls who lived across the street, they might have asked her, because she was outside when I went out in the morning. And was she surprised? Did he try to hide? And I fixed the window in my van. But in the end, in that particular thing, because of everything that happened, I knew in that particular accusation it was a lie. And though I didn't know initially. But during that process, I remember explaining to Constance Luedicke, I said, no, we found out that never happened. And one day, I'm trying to settle everything, not getting away from it. I said, we want to settle this and all. One day I went to the courthouse to take care of all this. And I remember Constance Luedicke looked at me and said, I'm waiting for evidence. I have a video that's still got to come. And I immediately said, I remember this, I said, oh, great. So at that time I realized that was a lie. And I said, oh, great, it'll show that she lied. And they had video of my van. Then she looked at me. See, that was a test that woman did. Vagina monologues. Then she looked at me and said, no, I don't think it's video of that. But that was the test. Because if a person's guilty and then they say we're waiting for one more video, if the person's guilty, they would say, oh no, never mind. But what they were waiting for was the video of the testimony of her friend. Now, the friend lied for her, but from that, you knew that the girl lied, because that was the only other girl there. Her friend asked her to lie, and the mom asked her to lie, and all that. And I know they hope all this was over, but there were much more serious cases where women have done much more serious things. So I realized, I said, oh, she knows. Later I figured that's what the lawyer did. Now the lawyer said, we wanted to talk to your wife one day. I said, yes, sure. And I remember my wife came home from Constance Luedicke's office. She was very upset. And she said, that lawyer is on the other person's side. That lawyer is like, well, we're here really to help the girls here. Though she knew that girl lied. I knew that. And I told my wife, oh, don't worry about it. We're just going to settle this. But she said, lawyers are supposed to represent clients. And that lawyer was on the side of the accuser, my lawyer. That's what my wife said. And so over a process of time, I pleaded no contest to that. But then I realized, I said, oh, I guess stuff like that does happen. And I was honest. I did my own. I dropped my lawyer one day. I said, forget it. And the DA's office, actually, I had one DUI many years ago. People think I lie about that. He calls it, no, I had a DUI many years ago. But this day, everyone said, don't go to the courthouse, which I did myself, and don't discuss it yourself and never admit, because I had a lawyer who was the JAG lawyer, Bill Thal. He was for my first DUI. But I was thinking, oh, well, I'll get him for this, but then I didn't use it. But everyone said, don't ever say, because you had one DUI, and if you tell the truth that you were actually blackout drunk that day, which I was, they said, they'll charge you with a felony DUI. I went, I said, look, I'm going to tell you what happened. They believed me, but I understand there were things in this. And they could have charged me with a felony DUI, and they didn't. They just didn't plead no contest. But that showed me that, and I'm not talking about a lot of these issues just because of this, but that caused me to be more attentive to some of the other things. The mechanic case, the carpenter in Bishop that I talk about, his case. It caused me to look a little more into some of this stuff. Okay? I have never retaliated or tried retaliation, but I want you to understand, I recognize that Constance Luedicke knew that accusation was a lie because of the way that was a test. We have a video. The video was the testimony from her friend that the cops held. This was Mark Skirka, because I remember I wasn't drunk when I was discussing things with her, and I remember she said, I'm waiting for that, and then she honestly admitted they're not handing it over for some reason. Well, that's why, because her friend, even though she had her friend lie for her, they knew, and I could tell, because we knew. Over that particular thing, by that period, we knew the girl lied. Now, and I knew because the mom kept calling my daughter, that mother kept calling my daughter on the phone, saying, oh, tell your dad just to go through with it, don't worry about it. Look, all of that's illegal, but women, they believe because they have vaginas, they can make these things. Even later on, calling, don't call. Can you imagine if I called that family? That's called intimidating the witness and everything else. But that mother of the girl who made the accusation continued to contact my daughter, trying to say, just tell your dad, hopefully he'll get over his alcoholism. Those people today are hoping for me to relapse, and they're hoping for me to commit suicide. That's what's within them. They're not hoping, and later I said, because they tried to talk nice. Debbie, my daughter, would say, oh, she's talking very nice. And I said, that my wife realized the mother was hoping that it would just go through. And when I realized on more serious things, like people that are sitting in prison for many years, and out of spite, they might have had other things that they did. And then those ladies are sitting out and saying, well, I'll deal with the other issues I'm dealing with. I'll deal with those. But it showed me That was a particular thing about Constance Luedicke that showed me she knew. She knew. But she felt for various reasons. So that was dishonest. And I'll tell you that that woman did indeed lie to me in that one particular meeting we had in the hallway of the courthouse. She said, here is Constance Luedicke's lie. Now, I also reported to her that that officer, who was Tommy Nichols, that he engaged in a lot of stuff out here, and I reported, so that kind of played a role in any, quote, evidence being in his hands. He personally took that case. Out of all the detectives or cops, he took it. I remember the day they came to arrest me, I knew there was something wrong with Tommy Nichols, because I had my friend Henry sitting with me, and the bell rang, and the way this took place is I was helping a friend, Charlie, Big Charlie. They donated a mattress to Big Charlie from Timmons Ministries. This was all in 2012 and 13. And I told Big Charlie, I'll help him bring it back to his camp. This is how the arrest took place. And so I dropped off the mattress. He was camping off of one of the little camps here. And some other person that, was community, they took videos and said, oh, somebody's videotaping us, John. I said, well, we're not breaking the law. Well, he sent the videotapes into the, illegal dumping type thing. And that's so. That day, my daughter got a call at the house. This is the city, engaging in lies and some of these things you see. So I was at Timmons after I helped Charlie drop off the mattress. My daughter called me. I think it was Debbie called me and said, oh, they came to the house and somebody has illegal dumping. It might even be the next day. But the code enforcement, 2 people came to this house. They also lied about this because I tried to correct this later. I went to code enforcement. But 2 people came to the house with code enforcement and said, your dad dumped a mattress. But if he goes and picks it up, we will not, give you a fine or a charge or anything. Now, this happened after the indecent exposure charge. So I went and picked up the mattress, brought it back to the house. I was here with Henry, and then Tommy Nichols and another officer came to the house, rang the bell. And Tommy was there, said, you're under arrest for indecent exposure. I thought they were there for the mattress. Now, I talked openly about all of this, blogged on it, talked about it. And I guess they thought John's going to, panic. And we're here to arrest you for indecent exposure. I simply said, I have openly talked about all this. I said, we found out through the Facebook and all this and mutual friends that. But I guess I didn't respond the way he wanted me to respond. So anyway, I had my friend Henry here, and Tommy comes in the house and looks at Henry and is like, what are you doing here? Something like that. First of all, don't worry who I have at my house. But then they took me outside in the front, and then they, here's the handcuff. Now, I remember I was calm. I was covering anything up. But then I never saw Tommy Nichols at that point. But look, I heard many stories about Tommy. And I saw the name tag on his shirt. And they were playing the good cop, bad cop is what it was. And when I saw the name tag, and they expected me to break down, and I just was like, now. You live open in the throne of God. That's why, Miss Luedicke, you lied, dear, about the video. We'll publish this. Now, when that happened, I saw the name tag of Tommy. And I said, oh, you're Nichols. Calmly. And he went like this. There's a verse that says, they puff against you. And it showed me that maybe there's some problems with Tommy. And he went, yeah. It was almost like in a way that, yeah, that's me. And I said, oh, he seems to be maybe like people that challenge his thought. He jumped up and down So either way, then they left me with the other cop, and there was a good cop, bad cop thing. But then Tommy said, I bet you threw that mattress out and dumped it somewhere else. I said, no, I was calm. I said, it's here in the garage. I showed it to him. I said, I didn't dump it somewhere else. But the thing about the mattress was they lied. They said, if your dad picks it up. So 2 people from code enforcement lied to my daughter that day. Because it had nothing to do with, they just said, let's get one more thing and then it'll be enough to do an arrest. So, code enforcement lied because they did the fine out of it. But the thing about Miss Luedicke, when she spoke to me that day, and then when my wife came home, after personally, she said, oh, she's like, John, lawyers are supposed to defend their clients. And she's like, well, these girls are still upset. Sort of like, regardless if they lied about that, they were still upset about being followed, which I'm sure I did, just checking her out. And my wife was more upset than me. She said, that's not what lawyers are supposed to do. They're supposed to, and she knew, Constance Luedicke knew, because the other video, and this is why the DA's office and the cops held that video. It was the interview of her friend, who she had go along with it, and I don't think the friend wanted to lie, but even in the lie, because they knew. So, and then the mother of the girl kept calling my daughter. Just tell your dad now, hopefully he'll get a, no dear, that was illegal, but they can do illegal. And I've discussed this before. This isn't the first time I discussed it. So that was 2012 and 13. But it made me look at some of these other issues, okay? It made me look at the issues. I know that girl lied. And I remember Constance Luedicke didn't interview the girls. And I said, what do you mean you didn't interview them? And then after I said, aren't you supposed to interview them? Then she interviewed them. Now, I initially would have thought maybe it did happen. We found out that accusation was a lie. But I remember Miss Luedicke, I know she knew, because she told my wife, the other girl that was there, the other witness, she said, their witness is not agreeing. That the other girl, her videotaped investigation didn't agree and showed that they lied. But I remember Miss Luedicke said, and I remember hearing her, and she said, but the other girl said, angrily, I know what a penis looks like. And I knew she lied, but then when I heard Miss Luedicke say, she angrily, do you, then I realized even if someone lies, they're offended if people don't believe the lie. So that's all settled and that's all done. But Miss Luedicke, when she was in the hall that day, here's the lie, Constance. You said to me, I'm waiting on the video, thinking I was going to say, oh no. And I immediately said, oh great, it'll show she lied. And then you said to me, dear, oh, I don't think it's that. What do you mean you don't think it's that? You knew the video you were waiting on was the other testimony from the other girl that contradicted the accuser. And she was there to try to back up her friend. But it still showed that that particular thing was a lie. So your lie, Miss Luedicke, was that you thought would never come into the light, was you said to me, I don't think it's that. No. You knew what video you were waiting for. And it wasn't, you don't think it's that. You knew it was the interview video from the other girl. So, dear, everything's in the light. Now, I have never, one day when I said I'm going to settle it, the DA went easy on me. This was under Mark Sparky, and I will not contradict what I said back then. They could have charged me, the two prosecutors that I talked to myself, and everybody said don't do it, because they'll drop that and they'll give you a felony DUI, John, because it's your second one. They did not charge me with the DUI. And they could have easily said, you just admitted to us you drank, which I did, you admitted to us blackout. So I want to go on the record. And I remember later saying, that they said just plead no contest. And then the next day, when I finally had to go back to settle it, I remember they were like, they had to wait on something. And of course, you're nervous when you get through that. I said, look, if we can just settle it, I'll even plead guilty. And one of the lawyers for under Mark Skirka, I remember this, he said, he was two guys, they were fairly nice. They knew I was being honest, talking to them. And I said, I'll just plead guilty. I just need to get this done with. And one of the lawyers immediately said, no, that would be unjust. The DA, that man, those two prosecutors that I talked to during this, he said no. Immediately he said, no, that would be unjust. And I thought, so there was, and that was under Mark Skirka. And they could have done a felony DUI on me. Now, people think I'm afraid to discuss these matters. This ain't the first time I discussed it. And when you see me writing and posting on all this, it was later looking at a lot of these other cases, I said, oh, I understand. I don't blame Miss Luedicke, but it was my wife who went on her own. I said, yes, you can go. And she asked my wife, what did your husband say the day? And she told Miss Luedicke the truth. He says he doesn't remember. He was a blackout drinker. And they checked into my drinking like if I was lying about that. They realized I was telling the truth about all that. But my wife said, oh no, she's more on the side. Miss Luedicke said to my wife, well, those girls are still mad, regardless of whether they lied about you flashing them. They're still mad. So Miss Luedicke, I don't believe you are a just or honest lawyer. Now I'm going to title this Constance Luedicke, because what I told you, and you would probably lie about the incident I just mentioned, because to you, telling truth and lying, you feel like only if you're under oath. But you lied about the video, Miss Luedicke. Now, I saw a little thing from Constance Luedicke in the paper a few years ago. She lives out on the island. I don't know her address, and I never tried to contact her again. But she lives across from Schlitterbahn, which is a famous water park that they just built. But it's a disaster, and she kind of wrote an article about she lives across from it. But the other thing that she did, which was criminal, because Tommy Nichols, I guess he was offended that I said, oh, you're at Nichols. Man, he followed me. He parked down the street for months, followed me to AA. Then I realized, and I emailed Chief Simpson when he was chief. I said, look, I think I have a problem with this cop. And after I emailed the chief, Tommy tried to run me off the road in a cop car. I said, wow, this guy is really off the wall. That's why I want you to see me commenting on these other things about you. Look, I'm not commenting on those things in a way like I was getting back. I'm being honest about all this. And I told Miss Luedicke, I said, I think this officer is a threat. And she said to me, I don't want to hear anything about that anymore. By law, I've reported this now, Miss Luedicke, to the federal authorities. You should be giving me a statement why you made that response to me. When I complained about the officer, which was Tommy Nichols, she said, I don't want you bringing that up to me anymore. See, that's your second transgression here. As a lawyer in this community, if you have someone that was arrested and then later says there's an officer that, and I also told Constance Luedicke at the time, I said, I know this officer, and he's involved in a lot of stuff out there, and he's untrustworthy. But Miss Luedicke did tell me, I'm sure she would lie. You see, women with vaginas and feel like, and I'm giving you not derogatory statements, they feel like, how do you question or challenge? So she did two things wrong in that. She lied about the video she was waiting for, which was an interview video, and not a video of the vehicle. Because I responded, oh great, I'm glad you have the video. Well, I don't think it's that. No, you knew what it was. And when I told you, Miss Luedicke, and till this day now it's documented that, yes, indeed, that officer has a history of harassment and oppression and all. And you yourself told me they were not releasing that final witness video, which you yourself saw, showed that the girl lied. But you told my wife. But the girls are upset anyway. Even though You didn't say even though they lied, but you knew they lied because you told my wife the video, and that's why they held it. Now, will that ever end? Look, all of us, I've never tried to contact that. The mother of that accuser actually made contact with my daughter after I said, stop calling us. After I said, don't contact my family anymore. And the mother continued to call my daughter. And you would think, and I complained about that, if a male was contacting someone like that on the phone, which is illegal to have any trying to intimidate witnesses, that male would be in prison. But if a female, and the mother in that case, consistently called my daughter Debbie, trying to say, tell your dad just to do this, tell your dad, that's illegal. So you have a cabal of women. But yes, I go on record that Ms. Luedicke possibly committed a crime by not reporting to the authorities that I said, look, there's a problem with Officer Tommy Nichols. He's got a history, and he's, and for you to have said to me in your official capacity to someone you were supposed to be representing, don't bring that up again about any corruption within the department, about any illegal activities you know that are going on, because I'm a lawyer in this community, and I'm not concerned with if there's police corruption. I'm not concerned with any illegal act. That's how I took that. And so I never brought it up to her again. But yet at this point, things have gone to the Justice Department over the years. So if they ever did but I'll put on record, Ms. Luedicke did indeed tell me that. You see, I'm speaking truth in this. I never claimed to be a saint, but I speak the truth in how everything occurred. And when I look at the more serious things, because many of you think, don't listen to John because I've discussed this a lot. And I have videos, and I'm never taking those down. They're still on my various sites. One of my sites, WordPress, is the same as the Patriot Dad site. I'll mention this now, I've been talking. I'm trying to add some links from the Patriot Dad site. And I don't know if he's been killed. He was a local blogger. And I'm putting the links on the post now. But he was making accusations that there was an underground sex ring, and that the sheriffs and possibly the murder of Tom Greenwell or the suicide was. There's a lot of posts like that. But I just Googled, I've tried to find on Patriot Dad's site the case about the sheriff, because it was a Victoria sheriff, Ratcliffe, because I just read the article. But I couldn't find it on Patriot Dad's site, and he's not blogged, in years, I guess. No new posts. I don't know what happened to that man. But then I found a link to that sheriff, and he was blogging that he was having, the Patriot Dad believed there was an underground sex ring with those in authority. And so it made people question, maybe he's bringing up too much. But then there was an arrest on the sheriff was an underage boy that he had sex with at gunpoint. And then finally the arrest was made. This was a few years back now. So it made me think, maybe how far things are. How far, the rabbit hole is. But I'll title this Constance Luedicke. And Miss Luedicke, I'm telling you the truth. I bet you would lie that you never told me not to bring that up again about possible being pursued by an officer, which I sent an email with. I bet you would lie. I bet you would lie about that, dear. What does that show me right now? In God's court, I'm going to title this Constance Luedicke, but it shows me in God's court, what you feel is truth, is what's said under oath and so forth. But you feel it's acceptable to lie. But in Scripture, you never lie. Whether you are under oath or whether you're talking to people you're supposed to be representing, you never lie. You never tell somebody. It's now been documented that Mr. Nichols had a long history. I'm not mad at you, Tommy, and I'm not looking for you, okay? A lot of our mutual friends. Look, if I was really just out to get you, Tom. I didn't mention a lot of the other things because I felt a lot of those other things were consensual. Okay? And I don't look bad upon you for people that do consensual things, okay? And I wouldn't just overlook what I found out. It would only be if I felt to cross the line where it was non-consensual. And friends that died, Huey, Danny, they were all of our friends. They were all friends. Huey knew me well and said, John's a good man. There were times where Tommy thought, help me with John. And Huey tried in nice ways. I saw through it. And I didn't. But yes, this is be titled Constance Luedicke. I go on record today that Miss Luedicke said to me, I don't want to hear any more possibility of illegal activity, meaning you were pursued, trying to run it. You told me you never want to hear that again. And do you know by law, if one of your clients reports something like that, you were to report that. So you abdicated your authority, dear. You abdicated it. And you gave as much indication to my wife when she came home that day. She said, she just seems like she doesn't really care about the evidence. She kind of knows. She told my wife, you told my wife, yes, the testimony from that other video, they see that the girl lied. How could you do that, dear?